Assalamu alaikum students, welcome to the lecture number 35 for the subject of operating systems. In this lecture we are going to discuss the input and output subsystem or input or output services provided by the operating system. So here are the different objectives of this lecture. We will see a brief overview of the IO system and different types of IO hardware. Then we will briefly overview the PC bus architecture, and then we will see the life cycle of a typical input and output operation. Then we have an important concept of interrupt driven IO cycle, direct memory access, blocking versus non-blocking IO, and IO protection. Now here is the overview. An operating system deals with a number of input and output devices including keyboard, mouse, touchpad, webcam and printers. Now for this, IO management is the major component of operating system design and operation. All the input and output components are important for the operation of a computer system because we control computer system with the help of input devices and we see the display or results with the help of output devices. So IO devices vary greatly. Some IO devices are shareable, others are not shareable, some are fast while others are slow. So operating system needs different methods to control these IO devices. Similarly, in addition to control, operating system has also to manage the performance of the devices so that these devices can behave in a deadlock free manner and speedy manner to speed up our operations. And with the advancement of technology, new devices are being created. So operating system is developed by keeping this in mind that devices are constantly updating and technological changes are coming there too. So in order to use the IO devices, we need the different type of ports, buses and device controllers. Then we need the device drivers. Device drivers are the system programs that contains instructions that are specifically designed for a specific IO devices. So device drivers basically issue instructions to IO devices so that these devices can perform certain operations. Now we have IO hardware. We have discussed earlier that we have a variety of input and output devices. Just like we have storage devices, we have data transmission devices, and then we have human interface devices like thumb scanner, like webcam, like pointing stick. Now each device requires different type of data and different data transfer rates. Similarly, we have USB flash drives, then we have hard disk drive. Although these devices are storage devices, but quite often we copy data from one device to another device. So this is basically the transmission. Now look at the common concepts. How devices interact with computer. Devices interact with computer with the help of signals. Now for the signals we have a port. A port is a point of connection or a point where a device is attached. Then we have a bus. A bus is a group of communication lines that are used for transferring data and signals. We have PCI bus and we have PCI Express bus. Then we have expansion bus for using expansion cards like VGA card or sound card or network interface card. Normally in our modern computers all these are built in, but in some desktop computers you have to use these slots or buses to connect additional components. Then we have a controller or a host adapter. Now a controller or a host adapter is sometimes integrated with the device and sometimes it is a separate circuit board. Now this controller or device controller contains a small processor called microcontroller. It has its own private memory that is called buffer or cache. Then we have a bus controller. So these controllers are used for controlling a specific device. So controller provides the electronic signals to the ports, bus and devices. Then in order to control the IO devices we need IO instructions. as we discussed earlier that device controller has a small memory, so we can say that devices usually have small registers where device drivers places their commands, the addresses and the data to read and write. तो आप कह सकते हैं कि किसी भी डिवाइस के साथ डिफरेंट रजिस्टर्स हैं, जिस तरह CPU के साथ रजिस्टर्स हैं इस तरह किसी भी डिवाइस के साथ भी रजिस्टर्स हैं। तो ये रजिस्टर्स बेसिकली किस काम आते हैं, जब भी डिवाइस ड्राइवर इंस्ट्रक्शंस प्रोवाइड करते हैं तो ये इंस्ट्रक्शंस भी इन्हीं रजिस्टर्स में स्टोर होती हैं। जो डाटा इन डिवाइसेस में स्टोर करना है वो भी इन्हीं रजिस्टर में आता है। इन डिवाइसेस से अगर हमने कोई डाटा कॉपी करना है तो वो भी इन्हीं रजिस्टर्स में आता है। इसी तरह हर डिवाइस की अवेलेबिलिटी का स्टेटस भी रजिस्टर में हम स्टोर करते हैं। सो वी हैव डाटा इन रजिस्टर, डाटा आउट रजिस्टर, स्टेटस रजिस्टर एंड कंट्रोल रजिस्टर एज वेल। Similarly, devices have addresses too. Now these addresses are used by direct I/O instructions and memory mapped I/O. Now what is memory mapped I/O? Memory mapped I/O uses the same address space to address both memory and I/O devices. In other words, CPU communicates with memory and input and output devices with the help of system bus. So these devices are also able to communicate with the system bus. So this is memory mapped I/O. Now here is a typical bus structure. Here we have a PCI bus that connects the IDE controller like hard disk drives. Then we have expansion bus that contains expanded devices like parallel port, serial port and keyboard. Then we have SCSI controller for containing SCSI disks, and then we have the graphic controller and the monitor, and here we have the system bus that connects the processor, cache and memory. So this is typical bus architecture of a computer. Now here is typical life cycle of an IO request. First of all, IO request is generated. Whenever IO request is generated, a system call occurs. A system call takes the system from user mode to kernel mode. If the request is already performed, then we move this way. If the request is not performed, the request is sent to the device driver. Now the device driver processes the request, issues command to the device controller in order to perform the operation. The device controller sends the command to monitoring devices and interrupts when IO completed. So whenever IO is completed, the device controller generates an interrupt indicating that device IO is completed. Upon the interrupt is received, the interrupt handler receives the interrupt, stores the data in the buffer and unblock the device. Similarly, the device driver determines whether the IO information or IO process has completed or not. If it is completed, it sends an appropriate signal to the kernel system that the issue is resolved. Now when the issue is resolved, the system moves from the kernel mode to again the user mode to perform the interrupted operation. Now what are the interrupts? CPU interrupt request line are triggered by IO devices. As we discussed earlier that operating system is interrupt driven, that it means that software generate interrupts and hardware devices also generate interrupts. So these devices generate interrupt and these devices trigger interrupt request line. Now what is interrupt request line? A CPU checks the type of interrupt after the interruption occurs and then executes the interrupt handler with the help of interrupt vector. Now what is interrupt handler? Interrupt handler is a code that receives the interrupt type and contains the code to resolve the interrupt. Now the interrupts are maskable and non-maskable. Now what are the maskable interrupt? A maskable interrupt is the interrupt which can be handled after the execution of current instruction. हमने इंटरप्ट आर्किटेक्चर में देखा था कि जब इंटरप्ट अकर करती है हम करंट एग्जीक्यूटिंग इंस्ट्रक्शन को पॉज करते हैं, फिर उसके बाद इंटरप्ट वेक्टर के पास जाते हैं और फिर इंटरप्ट को हैंडल करते हैं। इंटरप्ट हैंडल करने के बाद हम इंटरप्टेड इंस्ट्रक्शन में वापस आते हैं। सो दीज आर नॉन मास्केबल इंटरप्ट्स, बट इफ़ we can continue the process and handle the interrupt later on, these type of interrupts are known as maskable interrupts. Now interrupt vector is an index that contains the addresses of different interrupt service routines, and dispatches the current interrupt to the correct handler. So whenever an interrupt occurs, context switch also occurs. Now what is context switch? The current process is paused, the next interrupt handling process is started. So whenever the current interrupt handling process is completes, another context switch occurs कि हम interrupt service routine को close करेंगे और interrupted instruction को दोबारा start कर देंगे. So that's why context switch occurs at start and end of the interrupt handling. So interrupts are based on the priority. So if interrupts are priority wise, we say that interrupts are non-maskable. It means that we have to pause the current execution and handle the interrupt first. Interrupt chaining occurs if more than one devices at the same time generate different interrupts. In other words, you can say that in response to an interrupt, another interrupt can be generated. This is simply interrupt chaining. Now what is interrupt driven IO cycle? Here we have a CPU. At the first step, device controller or device driver initiates the input and output operation. Now at this step, the CPU signals the IO controller to initiate the IO. So here interrupt occurred, and secondly, the input is ready, output is complete, and again interrupted signal is generated. The CPU receives the interrupt signal and transfers the control to the interrupt handler. Now here interrupt handler handles the type of interrupt and executes the interrupt procedure or interrupt service routine. And after running the interrupt service routine, CPU resumes the processing of the interrupted task. So आप कह सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर भी एक context switch है और यहाँ पर भी एक context switch है. So interrupts mechanism are also used for exceptions. Exceptions are the conditions that seldom occur, or in operating system, exceptions are also known as errors. So in this case, we can terminate process or system can crash due to hardware error. Similarly, if IO is associated with the virtual memory, page faults can occur. Similarly, software can also generate traps to trigger kernel system calls. Similarly, if we have multiple CPUs, concurrent interrupt processing can occur. However, for time sharing systems, interrupt handling must be fast so that users don't keep on waiting so that for interrupts to be completed. Next, we have an important concept that is known as DMA or direct memory access. Now, direct memory access is used to avoid the programmed IO. Programmed IO transfers one byte at a time and is used for large data movements. So, in order to implement DMA, we need a DMA controller. Now, what a DMA controller does? A DMA controller bypasses the CPU and transfers data directly between the IO devices and the memory. इसकी वजह ये है कि अगर हम डाटा ट्रांसफ़र करते वक्त प्रोग्राम्ड आईओ को यूज़ करेंगे तो प्रोग्राम्ड आईओ का मतलब है कि हमारे पास कोई प्रोग्राम होगा जो डाटा ट्रांसफ़र करेगा. सो इस सिचुएशन में बार बार जो है वो सीपीयू एग्जीक्यूट करेगा इंस्ट्रक्शंस को, यानी सीपीयू अपनी वर्किंग को कंटिन्यू ही नहीं कर सकता. सो टू अवॉइड दिस वी विल यूज़ ए डायरेक्ट मेमोरी एक्सेस. डायरेक्ट मेमोरी एक्सेस में क्या होता है कि सीपीयू एक दफ़ा सिग्नल जनरेट कर देता है डाटा ट्रांसफ़र को इनिशिएट करने का. उसके बाद आईओ डिवाइसेस और मेमोरी आपस में डाटा ट्रांसफ़र करते रहते हैं और सीपीयू अपनी वर्किंग करता रहता है. तो इससे हमें बेटर परफॉर्मेंस मिलती है. सो इन ऑर्डर टू इम्प्लीमेंट डीएमए वी नीड ए डीएमए कंट्रोलर. सो विद डीएमए operating system writes DMA command block into the memory. Now this command block contains the source and destination addresses of devices. It also contains the read or write mode. It also defines the number of bytes to be transferred between the memory and the IO devices. Similarly, write location of command block to DMA controller. Now there is an important concept that is bus mastering of DMA controller. For this, the DMA controller grabs the bus from CPU in order to transfer the data. So whenever the DMA data transfer is done, interrupts are generated to signal the completion of the process. Now here is the 6-step process to perform a DMA transfer. First of all, the device driver is told by the CPU to transfer the disk data to a buffer at address X. After that, the device driver receives this signal and tells the device controller to transfer C number of bytes from a disk to the buffer at address X. At the third step, the disk controller that contains a DMA controller initiates the DMA transfer. Now, when this commands occur, the disk controller sends each byte to a DMA controller, and the DMA controller transfers the bytes to the buffer X in the memory. So, in this case, memory addresses are increasing and the bytes are being decreased, and this process continues until we reach C is equal to 0. It means that no bytes are remaining. So, when there are no bytes remaining to transfer, DMA controller interrupts the CPU to signal that transfer process is completed. So, this is basically the process DMA controller uses to transfer data among input and output devices and memory without the intervention of CPU. Next, we have the blocking I/O, non-blocking I/O and asynchronous I/O. Now, blocking I/O is a process that needs input and output is suspended until the completion of input and output. It is easy to understand and easy to use, however, it is insufficient because it can cause CPU to be idle and underutilized. Then we have a non-blocking. In non-blocking, input-output call returns as much as available. User interfaces and data are copied with the help of buffered I/O, and it is implemented with the help of multi-threading architecture. So, we can create a single thread to control the input and output. So, with this, the control returns quickly with the count of bytes that need to be read or written. Now, we have asynchronous. In asynchronous, a process can run simultaneously while input and output executes. Now, it is difficult to use. In this I/O subsystem, signal process when I/O is completed. Now, we have kernel I/O subsystem. As operating system major portion is kernel, so I/O subsystem is a part of kernel. So, I/O system needs scheduling. Some I/O requests ordering as per devices. As processes have priority, similarly devices can also require scheduling. Some operating system try fairness, as we discussed with job scheduling. कि जॉब scheduling में भी हमने डिस्कस किया था कि हमारे पास फेयरनेस होनी चाहिए, जॉब फेयरनेस होनी चाहिए. Similarly, some operating system implement quality of service, that is known as QoS. Now, here is another concept, that is buffering. Now, what is buffering? Buffering means that storage of data in memory while transferring between devices. Now, buffering is done in order to cope with the device speed mismatch. यानी अगर आपके पास दो different speed की devices हैं, एक आपके पास fast paced है, एक slow paced है, तो अगर आप fast paced से डाटा slow paced में कॉपी करना चाहेंगे तो डाटा नेचुरली स्लो ही कॉपी होगा. सो इस स्पीड मिसमैच को ख़त्म करने के लिए हम दरमियान में एक मेमोरी यूज़ कर लेंगे जिसे हम मेमोरी बफर कह देंगे. सो दिस मेमोरी बफर कैन स्पीड अप द प्रोसेस. Similarly, what is double buffering? In double buffering, two copies of data are created, one for the kernel and for the user as well. Now, we have a device status table. Here we have different devices. Each device has a status along with it. Now, the status idle suggests that the device is totally free, and the status busy suggests that the device is busy in some form of processing. Similarly, the sub things can also contain the address and length or bytes to be copied or written or read. Now, here are some other concepts, that is caching. Now, what is caching? Caching is a faster way to hold a copy of data. जैसे हमने डिस्कस किया कि हमारे पास कंप्यूटर्स में कैश मेमोरी होती है कि हमारे पास रैम है, CPU है और उनके दरमियान एक कैश मेमोरी है। सो जब भी CPU को कोई डाटा रिक्वायर है वो कैश मेमोरी से गेट करता है। नाउ व्हाट इज़ द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ कैश? क्योंकि कैश मेमोरी रैम और CPU के दरमियान है, इट मीन्स कैश मेमोरी रैम से ज़्यादा फास्ट है और CPU से स्लो है। सो जब भी हम डाटा कॉपी करते हैं उसकी एक कॉपी कैश मेमोरी में रख लेते हैं। दिस इज़ बेसिकली the two copies of data, one copy is in the RAM and the other is in the cache memory. So cache memory always contains the data that might be needed by the CPU in immediate time. So अगर CPU को ये डाटा रिक्वायर है तो बजाय इसके कि वो रैम में इस डाटा को देखे, वो कैश मेमोरी में इस डाटा को देखेगा और कैश मेमोरी से डाटा कॉपी कर लेगा। तो जब कैश मेमोरी से डाटा देखेगा उसको परफॉर्मेंस बेटर मिलेगी। So sometimes caching is also combined with buffering. Now we have spooling. Now what is spooling? Hold output of a device. In spooling we maintain a queue for each device and the tasks are placed in that queue, and this scenario is typically suitable for the devices that can only serve one request at a time. For example, हमारे पास जो printers हैं वो एक टाइम पर एक जॉब को ही एग्जीक्यूट कर सकते हैं, तो उनके लिए हम स्पूलिंग को यूज़ करते हैं। तो अगर हम यहाँ पर प्रिंटर्स को ओपन करें तो आपके पास डिफरेंट प्रिंटर्स की लिस्ट आएगी। तो जब भी आप प्रिंटर को डबल क्लिक करेंगे तो यहाँ पर ये जो आपको एरिया नज़र आ रहा है, दिस इज़ बेसिकली प्रिंट स्पूलर। दिस इज़ नोन एज प्रिंट स्पूलर। तो अगर आप मल्टीपल कमांड्स देते जाएंगे तो प्रिंट स्पूलर में वो कमांड्स जो हैं वो लगती जाएंगी। सो प्रिंट स्पूलिंग is suitable for the devices that can only handle one request at a time. Then we have a device reservation. A device reservation provides exclusive access to a device. For this, system calls are used for the allocation and deallocation of the devices, but in this situation, when we are designating a device for a specific process, we have to watch for the deadlock. Because this device will be designated, we don't know for how much time, and in the meantime some other process might need this device, so a deadlock can possibly occur. So we have to take care of that too. Now we have the concept of error handling. As we know that operating system controls the execution of processes, devices. So operating system devices are full of errors. Operating system can recover from device unavailability and failures. So whenever an error occurs, an operating system might retry to read or write the file. Similarly, some advanced operating system also track the error frequencies. Similarly, if an error occurs, an operating system must be able to catch the error and report the error to the user as well. So इस पर्पज़ के लिए ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम क्या करता है, उसने एक अपनी एरर्स की लिस्ट जनरेट की हुई है। हर एरर की एक डिस्क्रिप्शन है, हर एरर का एक कोड है। सो जब भी कोई इनपुट एंड आउटपुट रिक्वेस्ट फेल होती है, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम यूज़र को एरर डिस्प्ले करवाता है, एरर की इंफॉर्मेशन डिस्प्ले करवाता है ताकि हम उस एरर को खुद से भी रिजॉल्व करने की कोशिश करें। Similarly, system or operating system also creates an error log files to create a record of errors also. Now what is input and output protection? User processes may accidentally or purposefully attempt to disrupt normal operation via illegal input and output instructions. So it means that one process can breach another process. और इस सिचुएशन से हमारे पास एरर जनरेट होंगे, प्रोसेसिंग में प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगी और पॉसिबली डेडलॉक भी अकर कर सकता है। सो इसके लिए तमाम आईओ इंस्ट्रक्शंस को हम प्रिविलेज्ड मोड में रखते हैं। इनपुट एंड आउटपुट सिस्टम को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए सारी इनपुट एंड आउटपुट सिस्टम कॉल्स के थ्रू हम परफॉर्म करवाते हैं। और इस पर्पज़ के लिए जो मेमोरी मैप्ड आईओ है या पोर्ट मैप्ड आईओ है या प्रोग्राम्ड आयो है या DMA आयो है, उनको भी हम प्रोटेक्ट करते हैं ताकि एक प्रोसेस दूसरे प्रोसेस की इनपुट एंड आउटपुट इंस्ट्रक्शंस को या डाटा को हैंडल ना कर सके। सो दिस वाज आवर लेक्चर अबाउट इनपुट एंड आउटपुट प्रोटेक्शन। सो आप लोगों के लिए एक छोटी सी असाइनमेंट है, आप लोगों ने ब्लॉकिंग एंड नॉन ब्लॉकिंग आयो की एक एग्जांपल सर्च आउट करनी है ताकि आपको उसका बेटर और क्लियर आइडिया हो जाए।